Oh, wait. I think it has a filter on me. I don't even know how to change that.
Does it? I don't see anything.
Well, no, I think it has you know how it has that gauge on the bottom of like 1 to 10 of how much it wants to alter the way you look. It was on
Oh,
2. I had to turn it down. I don't know how to change it now. That's okay, whatever.
just set it to 10. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah, I set it to a 10. That's why I'm so beautiful. Play with those things because, like, I made my eyes really big the one time during a live because, like, I usually have no one to talk to. So I'm like, hey, let's make my eyes really big. Let's make it real weird.
I don't think I've ever played with filters on a live. I bet that'd be fun. That's a Saturday Night Live thing.
Leave it for Saturday, okay? No, no fun.
How are you?
I'm just peachy. How are you?
I am fantastic. Fantastic.
God, how are you surviving this heat? Because like I
I
kind of want
was
to.
I was literally about to complain about it. Like I made a really long video outside and like I couldn't do it because of the humidity.
It's so bad.
It's bad.
It's
Like
oh my god.
so this is my second summer down here and maybe last year I was in the honeymoon phase and it didn't phase me, but like y'all
Oh no, this one's hot because it's not
is
normally
that
hot until the end of July or August. It's hot right now.
it's it's
It's
armpit hot. It is. Yeah.
hot. Like I only wear natural deodorant, so like it's bad. Like I'm like an Italian hoagie half the time, sprinkled with lavender. So like it's just so bad.
yeah. I It's better than 30 below for 3 months. I'm going to keep telling myself that until it's winter again, where I can be like, this is why I moved down here. This is why.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's better than the what is it? I mean, in Pennsylvania anyway. It was like 7 months of snow. Oh,
Right?
all the time.
It's just sidewalk. We'll see it eventually.
Yeah, yeah, right, right. I'm gonna crack my butt on it 500 times before I see it, though.
So, like, I had to buy special, they're called yak tracks, and they go on any shoe. They're like training wheels for shoes with little spikes on them. I had to wear those all the time because, like,
You're sophisticated. You're sophisticated.
yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
me, I was just like, I'm gonna walk down these icy steps, and then I just slid down the because I used to live on a second floor apartment, and I just slid down all the steps and had a bruise on my one butt cheek, and I have pretty big butt cheeks, so like it was like almost my whole butt cheek.
I messed up my sciatic nerve so bad. I worked in retail at the time. Like I literally was hunched over for like 6 weeks. So that's why I had to get the training spikes. I
Oh my
can
god!
only damage myself so much.
Right? Ah, totally.
But out here I'll just die of heat
Yeah,
instead
right.
of
That's all I keep about is like because I have to go out and I have to water the animals 3 times a day. I had one of my rabbits passed away yesterday because of how hot it is.
right.
Um, and it's so 3 times, and it takes about 45 minutes to be able to water absolutely everybody because when you have 45 rabbits and 3 sheep and 65, I think we have about 65, maybe 55 chickens, and like God, it's so much. I want to punch myself in the face.
In the heat.
In the heat.
In the heat.
Why, Kelsey? Why?
All right. So we're talking about something fun tonight. I'm excited. Are you excited?
I'm excited, but I'm also really unnerved.
It's okay. I see some people sitting in here that are going to really appreciate the conversation. So we're good. We're good. I'll let you explain your journey. We'll go from there.
Well, I was raised in the United Pentecostal Church. Well, what I should say is I started off Catholic until I was about, I think, 5 maybe, and then we switched to the UPC, and then I left when I was 17, I believe. And what I wanted to talk about were the wounds that had left on me. There was a lot of like favoritism and there was a lot of, I don't know, sensationalism, and you had to be a lot, and like there were a lot of things that I experienced in that journey that really affected my relationship with a higher power because I associated people in power as basically being that direct connection to a higher power. And so in church, I had experienced things like being told that I was too loud, too obnoxious. I had the pastor's wife ask me if I was mentally challenged once because I was always really hyper and I always talked a lot. And I mean, that hasn't changed. I'm still really hyper and I still talk a lot. But, and I watched, God, there's so many things that happened. There was just so much that happened in that church. And there are experiences that stand out to me in all of it because the church was really good for me. I didn't have a really great childhood growing up. So the church was kind of like that family, which is why it probably was so damaging, is because of everything that was happening in my home. I really relied on the church for the security and the stability.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started to get a little bit older, I started to get targeted by the women in the church because I developed early, and that was seen as a threat to them for their adult husbands. And that really messes with somebody when they're younger and they're being having comments on their body all the time. Like, that was something that happened to me all the time from the women in the church. Was somebody was constantly making comments about I was busty or I was really curvy and I was this and I was that, and I was always not acceptable. But I was also favored later on in the church. And I think that it's probably because of the fact that I'm very bubbly and very big and very whatever. So a lot of people were drawn to me. I had the nickname Sparkler for Christ because like the entire district knew about me because I was more of a fanatic. And I know that that's, I was a Bible banger. And, but near the end, what made me leave was I started to question things. When I met my ex-husband, this is probably the only good thing that he did for me. What I started to question things when I met him because he didn't have the same exact identical beliefs as me. He was a Pentecostal, but he believed in the Trinity and not oneness, and that kind of opened my eyes to the differences in religion. And I started going, oh wow, like this is different. And then I started to look back at, like, I was talking to you about the one time I was praying for a young man, and I think I was, I don't know, 10, 11, maybe 12. I don't remember how old I was. And I was praying for him, and I remember feeling so led to pray for him. And this is going to be important later on in the story, but I was praying for him, and there were some things going on with him that weren't an open discussion. And while I was praying for him, I just remember repeating and feeling led to just tell him, you're loved. Like that's the only thing that mattered, is that he needed to feel like he was enough. Like that was the only thing that mattered. And the man who was preaching that night, he stopped me from praying. He literally grabbed me by the arm and he said, this is inappropriate. You should not be laying hands on boys or men because you're a woman. This is inappropriate. And that, like, in that moment, I realized, I was like, oh my God. So in the eyes of God, I'm not enough. I can't show up at the foot of God and hear God's voice and be led by God to do something because I'm stepping over a godly bound. And there was that thing that, like, I'm 14 years old and I'm starting to go, wow, like, that was kind of weird. Wow, it's kind of weird that the women in the church started to target me. Wow, it's kind of weird that the pastor, instead of allowing a man who came into the church on New Year's night while we're praying, they, sorry, I'm going to turn the comments off because they're distracting me. that he was drunk when he had come in, and instead of praying for this man and helping this man, the pastor was like, no, you got to go. Like where is God in that? Like the man is literally coming to church intoxicated, obviously a broken man, and we're gonna walk him out. We're gonna walk him out. Like so all these things at 14 is when I started to question. And my defining moment in starting to question all of the things that were happening and all of the boundaries, like I wasn't allowed to wear pants, I wasn't allowed to wear makeup, I wasn't allowed to cut my hair, wasn't allowed to wear jewelry, I wasn't allowed to do a lot of things. As a woman, I was literally expected to just sit down, shut up, and be submissive, period. That is all I was allowed to do. And so when I started to question things, I started to really get targeted. And the one thing that my mom taught me, there were a lot of things that happened throughout those times that my mom taught me to basically always speak up. And she used to interrupt the pastor during services and say, hey, hold on a second here. That's actually not what the Bible verse says. You have to read the whole chapter to get the context. Like you can't do that. You can't just pick apart that, because then that gives a wrong message, and that's not the message that was intended, and all these things. And I started to do that. And I'll never forget that we were in Sunday school, and it was the teen class, and the youth pastor had asked a question, and he said something to the effect of, if somebody was intoxicated and they had walked into the church, what would be your response? And I'm like, hold on a second here. This has already happened. I know what your response would be. I know what the rest of the church's response would be. And I said to him, I said, I would sit down and I would pray with them. And he said, well, would you though? Like, would you really? And I said, well, yeah, because the God I believe in can change that. The God I believe in, and I know that it's illogical, but the God I believe in can change the intoxication of this man to be able to reach this man's heart, to be able to help him heal. Why? Why are we more inclined to reject somebody that has a wound than to accept them? I thought that we're supposed to be the hospital for the world, aren't we? Like that's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to allow broken people to come in here as they are, so that we could help them and all these different things. And so I had all those moments, and it was shortly after that my aunt had a miscarriage, and it was her fifth miscarriage. And at the same time, the woman that I was best friends with in the church at the time, she, her sister had a baby, and there were some health complications, but her sister didn't go to the church, but my aunt and her husband at the time did. And they stopped going to church for a little while, but nobody was checking in on them. Like, they've just had their fifth miscarriage, and nobody was making sure that they were okay. And that really bothered me, because they surrounded somebody who didn't even go to the church. They didn't even go to the church. And they surrounded her and ignored somebody who had been going to the church for almost 15 years. And completely dismissed that. And that scenario made me remember when my little brother was diagnosed with diabetes, that the pastor had said to my mom that if she had enough faith, that my little brother would be healed. And that same conversation came up, because shortly after we had left the church, I was on a conversation with my friend she was, more important in the church. So she was a voice in the church, and we were having a conversation, and I said to her, point blank, it was her sister that they were giving all of the attention to. And I had said something, and I don't remember what it was exactly, but it resulted in her saying there was a couple that was in the church at that time, and she said they're holding their miracle baby because they believed that they would be holding their miracle baby. And if Sister Chris, which is my aunt, or Brother Lee would believe, they would be holding their miracle child. And like that sent me on a spiral. And it was all of these rejections that created this significant wound in not only me, but I watched it affect my mom. I watched it affect my brothers. I watched it affect my dad, who wasn't really in the church or anything. And I watched it. I watched the entire structure of everything that I had had in my life completely crumble. And I was left friendless because I wasn't allowed to have friends outside of the church. I wasn't allowed to do things outside of the church. It was very much it was cultish. I wasn't allowed to go to the movies or anything like that. So there was not much that I knew outside of the church. And so I started to basically evolve at a young age because I was kind of thrusted into it. And I wore pants for the first time the last day of my junior year in high school. And it was like this big thing. Like, oh my God, Kelsey wore some pants. And that kind of like threw me into that. And then I started going to a different church, and I was kind of sexualized by the men in that church, the pastor and the head music guy. I was pretty sexualized by that situation. And there was just a lot. There was a lot that had happened in that short amount of time that created the never being good enough. Always. So what I always say is the wound that I carry the heaviest is always being good, but never being good enough. And that was how I stood before God. Is like, I'm a great example of the woman you want me to be, God, but I'm not good enough for you to show up for me. And then I went to that other church, and, a lead singer, and like really, really heavy into that church. And then like weird things happened there, and I ended up leaving there. And then my ex-husband, we broke up briefly. And then we started going to another church where I was lead singer in that church. And I had somebody prophesy over he and I that we were going to be getting married. And like, again, raised in this. So prophecy, like the voice of God is it, like, I cannot question this. I'm not allowed. And what that resulted in is they said that there was a specific date that she was told that we were going to be getting married on. It's just that we had to pray about it for, us to get that answer from God. And I remember my ex-husband came to me the one day, and he said, I got the date, and it was 8/8/08. And it was the day after I turned 19. And I remember praying like profusely, God, why do I not know? Like, why did you not tell me? Where's my confirmation? Why are you not talking to me? Why am I not good enough? Why are you not showing up for me? Like, there's all this other stuff that happened in my life, like between the abuse and the rejection and like all the violence I experienced. And now I'm here, and I'm like, well, God, I've literally given up my entire life for you. Like, when are you going to show up for me? When you can't even just tell me a basic date. You told my husband, my future husband, but you didn't tell me. Like, and so I was praying fervently. And the night before I got married, there are a handful of moments where I heard clearly and audibly something outside of myself. And that night I heard God say, do not do this. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, it's a little late for you to show up, God. Like maybe if you would have done that like 6 weeks ago before I dumped a whole bunch of money, I might have listened. And so I stupidly went and I got married. And that that wound of submission that I was taught made me tolerate a very, very abusive relationship. And I don't mean that he was physically abusive. There were a couple of times where he came at me, but he never actually hit me. But he was so mentally abusive that he had me questioning my reality like bad. Like it was really bad. When I left him, like I thought that I could have been gay because he literally accused me that all the time that I was a lesbian and I wanted to sleep with my best friend at the time, and like there was he's showing me I don't know if I'm allowed to say the word corn every day that he accused me of looking at, and like all these things. So my reality was questioned all while he was cheating on me and doing drugs. But I was that submissive wife. I was that submissive wife, and I had to, because that's what God would want me to do. And I'm going to show up for God, even if God doesn't show up for me, even though he did, but I ignored it. And I had 5 mental breakdowns. Like this really is the complete degradation of everything that I believed in started when I started to absolutely have fractures in my psyche. My psyche started to fracture. And when I finally got up the gall to leave my ex-husband, I think it was 4 weeks prior, he had almost stabbed me in the leg with a knife to deflate a blow-up bed because we had an argument and I was sleeping in the other room. And when I'm going to go close that door because I'm already having trouble thinking. When he had done that, it made me realize that I didn't want to be that submissive person, and I didn't care if God cared anymore. I started to not care. And I remember when I left him, I was in counseling for 3 months, and it was 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, and it was super intensive, and like I was medicated out the hills. Like I was not okay. And my current husband actually showed up when I was moving out. This is my most defining moment in my journey to finding myself, which resulted in me finding God again. But my ex-husband had pulled up with his drug dealer, and I collapsed to the floor, and I was like, I literally was screaming, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I can't effing do this anymore. And my husband, my current husband, and my brother went into the other room, and they were like, how are we going to get out of here? And something just snapped. And I was like, okay, submissive wife done. And I literally I hauled ass down 3 flights of steps, and I was around the house and through the front car window, threatening to kill him. And my husband, it took a while for him and my brother to realize I was gone. And they come running around. And at that time, I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. Somebody called the cops because there's a drug deal going on in front of my house. And my ex-husband had sped off. And I believe very much so that everything was divinity, because it was in that interaction that I started to step into who I am. And I became remarkably aggressive. I have no idea why my husband is with me, because like I was a see you next Tuesday. And so he he was very supportive, and he was the first man in my life that actually protected me. So all those years that I was experiencing violence at home, and all of the men that were around me in the churches that I grew up in, it was, what did you do? What did you do to entice this? And my husband was like, look, this is never going to happen again. Like, you don't have to worry about anything. Like, I'm here. I got you. You're going to chill. And that allowed me to kind of flourish into who I am, because he just kind of like stood back and he just kind of watched me blossom, all while he was annihilating himself and imploding inwardly. But he just kind of let me go. And if that, it is absolutely because of him that I felt safe enough to eventually end up connecting to a source again. Because after we moved, I lost everything that I had, all kinds of security, everything that I might have had. And it was really quite defining in finding God, because like before we moved and I had my son, and like I was fighting and everything. I was fighting doctors and therapists and all those things because of him being disabled. But like the fight with God, if I could tell me anything 10 years ago, it's that fight. That fight is nothing. Just wait, it's going to get a whole lot worse, a whole lot harder. And it was the two of them, really, that it was like divinity brought them both into my life. To my son taught me to speak up, and my husband allowed me to speak up, regardless of whether or not it was comfortable or not. And so then we moved down here, and the South is so much calmer than the North. And I think that that's a lot of why I was able to reconnect, is because all of that angst and anger and everything, was a lot easier to work through those things. And then when we moved out to the country, I just like, I don't even know. I started to completely let loose of absolutely everything that I believed in. And my meeting God moment, because there was a time where, like I said, I believed in God, but I didn't feel God. I didn't know anything about God or a higher power. And I had a moment. I don't remember when it was. I think it was maybe 2018, 2019, where I literally put my son in his room, and I was like, Mom needs like an hour to scream at herself for an entire hour. And I stood there and I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. Like, you've abandoned me all of these years. You let me go through all of those things, and you now I have a disabled child, and my husband's having a mental health crisis, and I have nobody around. There's no break. There's all this stuff going on, and then it compounded. I'm dealing with all the traumas that were left on me, all this stuff. It all just came up, and I was like, okay, God, like I'm done being abandoned. Like when is this gonna stop? And I remember feeling that warm embrace and hearing again, I've been waiting. I've been waiting for this moment. I need you to be honest with what's really going on in you. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, thanks. Thanks a lot. The hard time, I really don't know like why it couldn't have just been like easy peasy eggs and cheesy, but it wasn't. And it was that moment that started setting me up to start to connect. And I started to pray more regularly, and, just like habit, I guess, is what it more was. And then when things started to get really kind of hard in my marriage, I just kind of stepped back, and I was like, okay, we're gonna just empower myself. So I started to take courses, and I got my Reiki certification. I got 2 Reiki certifications, and I got 16 different certifications during that time. It's just those are the most the ones I use the most. And it was the second one, actually, where I was sitting at the table and I was holding the energies in my hand because that's what the instructor had said. And I went, oh my God, I know you. And it took me back to when I was praying for that young man. And I heard clear as day, I have never left you. I've always been here. I've been guiding you all this time. And I was like, oh, well, that's awesome. And it's through all of these weird things. And all of these weird things allowed me a space to look at all of my wounds and start the process of healing. And I had a significant health crisis in the middle of that too. And that was my spiritual awakening, like my real live spiritual awakening. That's what would be referred to as a Kundalini. And for anybody who believes in Kundalini awakenings, they're not just spiritual. You should definitely check your body because the whole thing's going crazy and you need to support it. But so it was in talking around the same time that I started to work through those emotions, is when my husband started to really have like the mental health crisis really started to seriously intensify. And I remember sitting at my naturopath's office and I had made a joke. And I said to her, I said something to the effect of, I'm the angriest person I know. And usually I would laugh because like it was like a joke, like I'm the angriest person I know, and I couldn't really put into words why I was so angry. Like I felt so abandoned by absolutely everything and everyone around me. And it led me to realize that I wasn't angry. Like in that moment, it was the first time that I realized, no, I'm not angry at all. I feel very abandoned. I feel very alone. I feel very unsafe. I feel all these different emotions that I'd never even thought of before. I'm scared. I'm just scared. And I started to sit in that anger and I started to let that anger move out of the way so that the other emotions could come up. And it's really through reconnecting to my emotions that God became fluid to me. God, like I live and breathe the divine right now. Like I literally just live and breathe in it because I started that journey of reconnecting back to my emotions. And I acknowledge all of those emotions and it started to unbury a lot of things. And it helped me to release a lot of my anger and really surface up my abandonment and all of these different things that had happened. And it was all through literally not trying to control any of my life spiritually at all. It was literally just in releasing, like, I don't even care anymore. Like, you know, whatever, God, if you're here, you're here. And if you're not, I don't even give a crap anymore. Like you effed up my whole life. And it was in that belief that it literally just gradually led me right to where I am. And it's really profound, that understanding that like God, source, whatever you want to believe in, does not live in the parameters of any type of religion. God is an essence. It's all encompassing. It's in everything. It is everything, and it cannot be held and bound by any concept that man can think up by themselves. And it's literally been the most freeing journey of my life, because having met me, you probably are quite aware that I really don't care what people think of me. I'm a lot. I'm a lot. And it's literally been this journey that's made me okay with being a lot. It's okay to be a lot, and it's okay because it's in that a lot that I'm able to help people, and I'm able to talk to people, and I'm able to see people's wounds, and I'm able to connect to the different things that have happened in their bodies, and I'm able to read their, like, I know it sounds crazy, but I'm a medical intuitive, and that's not as medical as we might think, but I can look and I can find the trauma that's stored in your organs, and I can help you to release those different things. And this literally all happened because of the moment that I got angry. I allowed myself for the first time to be like, you know what, God, F you, we're done. And it just allowed that opening for me to land here. Ta-da!
Lovely. Lovely. Thank you for sharing that. Like, I'm reading the comments as they go. A lot of people really appreciate a lot of what you said. There's a lot of themes there.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot of themes. You
Yeah.
know what kind of got us down this road a couple of days ago when we were chatting, you know, was that person that you were trying to pray for that you weren't allowed to, right?
Yeah.
Because I was talking about how now I wasn't raised in religion, zero religion. I've been in a church 3 times during service my whole life, and even then, like it was funerals. They weren't even really a service. And no, so I don't have a bitter hatred or something like that
Yeah.
towards religion. I'm indifferent, and then I
Yeah.
can only go off of what I'm told, off of other people, and even then, who knows what aspects of that's true, right? But what led to the conversation was we were talking about how I feel like a lot of opposition politically is due to people who are religious trauma through
Yeah.
extreme churches. And so that's what led us to the conversation over like, yeah, you knew somebody who can I share the detail about the person? Do you care?
Yeah. No, I don't care.
Yeah, because he was extremely flamboyant, right? And he was teased a lot
Yeah.
in the church, and he was isolated as being, you know, probably gay, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you wanted to pray for him for the sake of letting him know that like he's loved, and the
Yeah.
church is like, no. And so I feel like there's a lot of stories like that has created the opposition politically because they're hurt, and
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of that political opposition is fueled by revenge,
Yes.
right? Like I was
I,
hurt by an extreme, so now I'm going to be an extreme to hurt back. And I've talked to thousands of LGBT folk in intimate support sessions, and they all share very similar ideologies about it, very similar stories. And so when I hear stories like this, I go, okay, so I can sit in a couple different camps, and I can go, look, another one. But what really drew me to yours was acknowledgement, living in it, and healing from it. And the healing from it, you don't have the hatred,
no.
right?
No.
You're not out there to blame. You're not out there to drag any type of thing down. You're out there simply to help other people understand that that power that you find from working through your stuff gets you closer to that relationship with your source than it does relying on the cages or the constructs of religion, right?
Yes. Yes. The one thing that like I came to the conclusion of, because like in the beginning of my spiritual journey, I had a lot of fear, and I was like, oh God, I'm stepping away from God. I'm gonna burn in hell. And then like this is it. I bought a tarot deck. I'm a devil worshiper. And like this is happening. But it was in that when I was sitting there and I was feeling that energy and knowing that in that moment that I wasn't abandoned and that they were there the whole time, and I was actually being guided through all that pain. And the reason I had experienced it was because of the fact that I was supposed to help people process that pain and work through that pain, not so that they can return back to the church necessarily, but so that they could return back to source energy, you know, whether that be, you know, Jesus or whatever God you want to believe in, I don't know. But what the main thing I learned is God will always meet you where you are, exactly where you are, without parameters. That's what that taught me, the whole entire thing.
What's fascinating about when I talk about this stuff with people is my own spirituality journey isn't within definitions. And I've had a lot of people, you know, throw in a bunch of theology books at me and be like, read this and read this and read this. It's like, that's cool. But as I share my experiences without the same words, people like you go, oh yeah, no, that's because of this or that's because of this, like with absolute certainty because you've had exposure to it and you do have the theological things behind it. And it's these themes that I pick up on where, for me, where I started developing my spirituality was I started trusting. I've always had control issues. I've been a survivor of so many things in my life that if I'm not in control, like I flip out.
Yeah.
And a couple years ago, I started. It started with AA, but then I like just kept building momentum off of it, trusting that what's happening is necessary,
Yes.
whatever it is, whether it's good or bad or whatever. And falling into that trust. I don't want to use the word submissive, but I feel like that's a component of it. I feel like there's a component of being willing to just be like, hey, you take the wheel. I'm gonna trust that you're doing good. And in my experience, every time I do that, it actually, in fact, results well, including the bad things. They ultimately have some sort of significance, whether it's then or later on, right?
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating to me that two people can have the exact same trusted experience, that proving that trust is well placed, raised in two completely polar opposite different types of environments, which makes me further reinforce that, like, holy moly, like you said, it's not necessarily within the constructs of these pages without these books. There's connection and overlap in all kinds of ways. It's just whether or not you're looking, whether or not you're connecting, whether you're experiencing through a specific emotion like revenge or rage or hate or openness or love or embracing. And then you have a bunch of situations that happen where people ruin that or affect it or make it better. And that's where we get stuck.
Yeah.
Is that we're going to take away this ideology that makes us feel that connection to source because a human ruined it.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think that's the part that's the part the sides need to talk about.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. That man-made construct. Reality is all religion on the face of the earth is absolutely man-made. It doesn't matter. Like we're not I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings by saying that, but the reality is every book that is written in theology is written by a human being that has interpreted their connection to source energy or God. And it is literally their interpretation. So that means that their interpretation is literally going to hold every single thing that they have prior to that connection. So that means that if they have views that a woman is less than, then of course they're going to include that in their interpretation of God. If they have views that homosexual marriage is incorrect, then they're going to include that in their interpretations of God. And all of these things, it's all through your personal interpretation. So the more open the person is that is interpreting it, the less I guess judgment maybe would be happening. But we clung so hard onto, as a society, for centuries and millennia, we have clung so hard and so desperate for answers outside of ourselves that we have relied on those same human beings to be our guides, instead of realizing that the basic connection is literally in the very center of our cells. There's a spark, and it's in every single one of our cells, and that's where God resides. That's where God resides. God resides in you as a human, me as an individual, which means that I don't have to go outside of myself. But you also have to be cautious with that, because if you're manipulative or dishonest or any of those types of things, you're not going to have the right guidance, because you're going to be convincing yourself that you're on the right path, all while you're not doing a really good thing, because you're literally in the same mindset as the same people who wrote all of the theological books that have guided people for millennia. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And I mean, that applies across the board, right? I love how a lot of people forget the human component of all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, Us
Yeah.
humans are a collection of experiences, good and bad, and we are the product of those outcomes.
Yes.
Okay. And so, like, one of the first things you started your story with was I believed that my connection to source was through a leader. Um, and I, I don't want to say this the wrong way.
You could say whatever you want because I really don't offend.
No, I know you don't.
Oh,
I'm worried about Patty. I'm just kidding. Patty, I see you. Um, no, so where I'm struggling with looking at both sides of this conversation because I think about this as a relationship, and I
yes.
think about it as a relationship between people hurt by religion and people who, I mean, they have embraced and they absolutely love it. I feel like this relationship is what's causing a lot of charge and opposition. And with any relationship with opposition, the key to fixing it is finding that make one, communicating, two, acknowledging what has happened, and coming to a place of boundaries, healthy boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Now that all sounds really really simple from someone who had no exposure, wasn't hurt by it, and somebody who did the work and they embrace it, right? But when I think about, okay, how does this tie to leaders and stuff? What I see, the behavior I see happening is people who are impacted by extremists or maybe hostile leaders, or maybe negative intent leaders, or I don't know what the word would be. They take that same ideology that they believed in up until that point of hurt, and they bring it to the other side of the conversation, and now they're executing that same toxic leadership that they were hurt by and manipulating others around them. And so basically, you're taking an extreme religious person hurting somebody, they become an extreme anti-religious person on the other side, but it's with the same exact ideology of believe everything I do the way I do, otherwise you're just this garbage human being.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that's not seen.
Well, I think the explanation is as simple as you have fear on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
You have people who they don't believe in it, like they haven't, and this is going to make this really has the potential to offend somebody, and I'm not trying to, but it does. Growing up in this, what made me believe so staunchly in what I believed in was not God. It was the fear of not. What was my punishment gonna be? Was like I was gonna burn in hell, like God, literally. So I'm already a woman, so like I'm already not good enough, and then I'm gonna f up real bad at some point. God's gonna be like, well, you're gonna be a crispy friggin' chicken wing down in hell, like ha 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 ha. That's the God that you're taught, is that God is a punishing God, and then so that's the fear on that side, and then you have the fear of that fear on the other side. That rejection of well, I'm never going to be good enough. I effed up, and you're never going to see me as a whole human. And the thing is they're literally mirroring each other. It's so confusing because they're never going to be good enough, and they're never going to be good enough. So when will they see that it's actually their similarities that are going to bring them together? It's that understanding that your wounds are the same, they just happen differently. That's
Kels, you know how much I love you so much. Um, so as I'm exploring my own spirituality journey, I'm partnering with people like yourself, people like, I don't know if she's still on here, Jen, but my ex mother in law, uh, I should say maybe coming to the South is helping me understand things at a deeper level. And it's because it's more ingrained in the culture down here. But like my ex mother in law, she said something very similar to what you said. Their entire family is in hella nowhere, Tennessee. And I'm talking like a Walmart showed up and like that was the best thing that's ever happened in the town. And I was talking to her about religion, and for a while she was raised heavy Southern Baptist,
mm-hmm.
Like the kind that everyone like flinches when they hear it. I don't know what exactly it means, but like my ex didn't want to like tell me the details.
Yeah.
um,
Up in, so I get it. Yeah.
yeah, And she was telling me with her own personal journey, she landed at that place where you just said, where I struggle, this is her words. I struggled being part of, four walls or a church that believed so heavily that God's love was enforced through fear,
Mhm.
because it's kind of a contradiction. And so she separated from those four walls of that church, still pursued her spirituality, and the thinking of like, we need to be living in the love, not the fear, or the punishment, right? Like that's odd. And I think it's the human component that really drives that fear in, because as
Yeah.
we've seen in the past couple years, especially for those who operate outside of a spiritual realm, fear is obviously, it motivates us more than anything else. I
Oh, yeah.
genuinely believe 90% of how we operate is driven by fear. It's
And
not driven by any other
that's
emotion.
our DNA, of course. We're
Right.
beings that are driven to survive. Of course, it's a fear is a driving force. It's a huge force.
Right. And so you have these people who are living in that fear and then pushing it on other people, which creates conditioning and social programming, and that's where you get the cult mentalities on both sides of the conversation,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, absolutely. And I was going to add this, like, and this is, I'm going to throw in my own actual personal belief, and we've talked about this, that the religion as a whole, when it is in introducing the concept of fear, it's actually residing not in toxic masculinity, but in toxic femininity. Because the entire religious construct is put in place to manipulate your emotions, to gain control over you through manipulation. That is toxic femininity at its whole. Because if it was divine feminine energy, then there would be empowerment to help encourage people to allow their emotions to flow freely, not sit in emotions, not ruminate, not let them just stay stuck, but to understand the ebb and flow in emotions, and to allow that divine feminine to really reside. Because as beings, it doesn't matter what your gender identity is, we all have a divine masculine and a divine feminine. And the what religion did is it it tainted the divine feminine and twisted it and manipulated it for control, whereas government stepped in and they took over the divine masculine and they twisted it and they dominated, to gain control. So you have these two entities that are trying to gain control for the same reasons, and they're playing off of the two divines, which, when the more connected that you get, the more grounded you get, and the more fluid in your emotions you get, the higher connection you're going to have to God. And so, of course, society as a whole is literally demonizing both of these things. So you need to be kept in constant fear and constant manipulation of your emotions so that they can control what you're going to believe. And that's why we have all the things going on in the news, and we have all the things going on in religion, and we have all the things going on in government and around the world, and all the chaos and all the stuff that's going on is all for control and all based out of fear.
Breathe. Okay. What does that mean for people navigating that?
What that means is, so we've talked before about uh, my journey and what I did to be able to work through my emotions, and that is acknowledgement. That means I need to pinpoint my most recurrent emotion. And for me, that was anger. Some people, it's going to be anxiety. These are all our defense emotion. They're our main emotion that is blanketing everything else that we're feeling. So it could be anxiety, anger, abandonment, depression, whatever that main one is. You need to sit in it and you need to let it talk to you. That's my advice: is let it tell you what it needs to, because once you allow your anxiety to kind of speak, and not I don't know how to say this, not let it have control, but to let it have movement, so that it can exhaust itself and move out of the way. and tell you all of the things that are underneath. I would suggest that a lot of people do that with counseling, obviously, but if you can't, and you can grunt it, you brazen it like I did. Be real brave. Do it on your own. You could seriously just be honest. Like, be super honest with yourself, because it's in that honesty that you're going to be able to call yourself out. Calling yourself out, holding yourself accountable for the things that you're doing, because when you hold yourself accountable, you can pinpoint that target emotion, and then it'll move out of the way, and then you can hold those other emotions accountable, and then those other emotions will move out of the way, and they'll show you your traumas, and they'll show you exactly where it starts, and then that will show you the part of you that needs to heal, and eventually it'll lead you to a point of where you're going to come face to face with that situation, and that situation, you're going to have that opportunity to speak to that broken part of you and heal that. Does that make sense?
Here's how. Oh my God, Kels. All right, this is how much that makes sense to me.
Okay.
I, okay, I say those exact same things without anything with religion tied to it.
Yeah.
Right? When I talk about emotional intelligence, that's what I'm talking about, right? So, mad. Mad isn't an emotion, it's an outcome.
Yeah.
Right? And so you got to really dive into it and separating irrational versus rational beliefs and truly understanding it. So, an exercise that I do is, well, I mean, maybe mainly myself, but I help others navigate it through addiction, is like, why mad? Right?
Yeah.
Like, what factor, what piece of data? I really want you to tell me what part of mad, and they'll go, this situation, this data. Okay. So what about in your past is making it trigger that specific emotion? So now I want you to tie what you're seeing now, experiencing now, and tie it to what you're experiencing in the past that is triggering that negative emotion. And they'll tie the two together. And then I go, okay, so why are you saying this situation is like this situation when they may not be? And
Yeah.
then that's how you get people to understand that it's a projection. It's an irrational projection.
Yeah.
And once you get to that place of understanding your emotions, to your point, you're getting out of the noise and you're taking full responsibility and accountability for what you are doing to the situation as opposed to the situation is doing to you.
Yeah.
Right? So we're saying the same thing, just one is out of a religious outcome for the sake of you're able, like what you're saying, and mine's just out of just rationality and thoughts and emotions. And it's conversations like this that buy me more into this spirituality journey of my own, of like, how are we landing in the exact same spot? Mine is just lived experiences, yours is lived experiences with a lot of knowledge behind it. Like, that can't just be.
That goes back to exactly what I said is God literally meets everybody exactly where they are. There is no limitation to source energy. The only limitation to source energy is the limitation that we put on it. If we are not open conduits for this, whatever it is, that like there really is no actual definition for what is happening. But once we realize that what we see as God or a higher power is literally the most fluid thing you will ever experience, you will realize that there are no bounds to it, and that the message is not going to be just fed to one person. So that's actually relevant, like in the church I was raised in anyway. Prophecy was a big thing, and the thing about prophecy though is God never gives one person a message. God never gives one person a message. And I remember that as a kid, like people would prophesy and I'd be like, well, that's kind of weird. Like nobody else got that message. Like, and I remember thinking that, but it was like normal. And everyone was like, yeah, praise God. No, that's what it is. And like that was always something that sat in the back of my head but there's no confirmation. So how can we hold that this prophecy is real when there's no confirmation? And that's something that I grasped when I was really young, because I really feel like I really feel this is going to sound potentially egotistical, and it's not intended to. I feel like God literally plucked me out and saw me and said to me, you're going to experience all of these things so that they make sense when you're older, so that you can actually talk about the reality of me, that I am real, because you experienced me in the confines and the bounds of fear. You experienced that still small voice in the back of your mind that was saying, hold on a second here, we got to question this. We have to bring this to reality. And so, but the point to that is God will, or source energy will never give one person a message. It will be a worldwide message, which is why so many people come to that same conclusion, because they're all operating off of the same energy.
All right. All right. Just let me breathe. No, it's I agree, and I romanticize all of it, right? I do for my own spirituality journey. How how do we get this level of understanding? Because there's a bunch of people in the comments who are agreeing to a certain extent as well. Just like, it's very personal, it's individual, it's not, the same path across the board. Exactly what we're saying. How do we get this to the extremes? So one of the things that stuck out with me when we were talking a couple of days ago was, you sent me that video of some extreme person, the person who was like, I realized the enemy isn't this or whatever.
Oh yeah. It was really,
Yeah, and I was like, wow, this is super triggering for me. But you said you used to be that person, right? Because when you were in the church, that was you, right? And
yeah.
so, how do we get healed, experienced, trusting, loving Kelsey to get toxic, misguided Kelsey to understand that? Because I'm understanding that what's required to do it is a hard journey. And we can't force people to go through hard journeys, right? And so I think that might be where there's a hurdle that I would love to solve for it as a human, but maybe I'm not supposed to.
Well, that's it. It really is an individual thing. So like my thing is when I finally, like, all of my anger that I had towards my entire life, I stopped turning it towards all the people that had hurt me. And I just went, okay, you know what, God, I was taught that you were supposed to prevent bad things from happening, and I've had faith, and like, this is just proving to me that maybe my faith isn't good enough, and blah blah blah. And I was like, you're kind of a bitch, God. And it was in that turning of anger and bringing my anger to God, like full on, like, here it is, you're kind of really shitting on my whole life. And for other people, though, it's probably going to be that default emotion that they're going to have to literally be vulnerable with something they don't even understand. And that's the hard part, is because people fear vulnerability. They aren't even willing to be vulnerable with themselves. That's why we have default emotions that are blocking out all the other things that are screaming out loud, and your anxiety, rage, or whatever the hell you're feeling is like, shut up, sit back down. You're gonna put us in an unsafe situation, and we aren't even willing to be vulnerable with ourselves. So I guess I don't know what that answer is. I wish I did. I think that it is all that individual. My only answer is, I'm going to lead by example. I'm gonna tell people where I was, that I was the angriest person I knew. I waited for that moment for somebody to set me off. Actually, I avoided anger so much, and I manipulated so much, because I feared the ramifications of if I was able to get that angry, because I knew emphatically I could hurt somebody.
Yeah.
I could absolutely hurt somebody. And it's in that coming to that realization, hey, I want to talk about this. So my conversation started years ago. Like, I've been talking about this stuff for a long time. My first step in I guess self-realization was being grateful for my childhood essay. Like I remember uh for a long time it obviously messed me up really bad. And I remember the one time I was sitting there and I talked to a lot of people. Like I've encountered a lot of people that have experienced childhood SA, like random people in the store. Like I know you're not one to talk to people in the store, but like I really am. And that is literally where God has worked through me the most.
Yeah.
Literally has been in the store talking to a random stranger, and then I don't care if people dump their shit on me because it doesn't bother me. I don't carry it with me. Um so people would start to talk to me and they'd be like, yeah, like this stuff. And I'd be like, yeah, I could totally empathize. Like this happened to me when I was a kid. I've said for a long time that God gave me glimpses of trauma. I never experienced extensive trauma. I experienced glimpses that were enough to F me up enough to F me up. So, um, it was all in those things. And it was when I realized that, hold on a second here, I can talk to anybody about any of their pain because I've literally experienced every type of abuse. And it was coming into gratitude for the fact that I can help people. I know how to help people. I know how to listen to people. I know how to be that stand-in for people so that they have an opportunity to heal, even if I can't heal. I'm grateful for these things that happened to me because of the fact that it me being that voice or that sound box or whatever that they're able to just dump on, it allowed me to feel empowered and taking that power back. Like you tried to steal something from me, but I'm going to take it back because I'm going to help a whole bunch of people. I'm going to talk to everybody I know about what the hell I went through. I'm going to talk to every single person about the violence that I went through, the church trauma, the spousal abuse. I'm going to tell my story up and down. And it is literally all by leading by example and not only being vulnerable with myself, but being vulnerable with people that I don't even know. I don't know if that makes sense, but
It's literally my same exact stance, girl. Like that's exactly it. Like the reason, like people are always like, why are you so willing to share your story? Because people find that comfort space where they can connect, and it helps.
yeah,
It helps them process whether they're saying it, feeling it, just hearing it, something. And
I think,
so, yeah, go ahead.
no, go.
Go.
Okay, sorry. I think that for me, it helped that little girl that was invisible her entire life.
Yeah.
It helped her to be seen by allowing others to be seen.
And my story is that kid who didn't get the love and nurturing that they
Yeah,
deserved, that's what I give to other people. Like it is a self healing action to do for others what you needed back then, right?
yeah.
And with my journey, it was I misinterpreted that a couple years ago and thought that meant something very different. And so I took a lot of steps that were in the wrong direction, but those steps were necessary for me to realize today that it's easy to get misguided in trying to understand that core piece of us.
Yep. Which is why it's important that we're super honest with ourselves. Like
Yeah.
if this self-guided journey, you gotta be a blunt bitch. You gotta be like, hey, you're kind of a shit human. Like,
Right.
let's bring this in, kid. You're kind of being a dick right now, without somebody else having to tell you that. So that could start at home. That self accountability that start at home, like how you are with your kids, how you are with your spouse, all of those things. It's opening that avenue on little steps and taking those little steps of self accountability, like I tell my husband all the time that to hold me accountable, and I love that man to death, but he does not. I swear to God, he thinks I'm perfect, but I am not. I'm definitely not. Because like he never ever tells me anything that I do wrong, and I'm always, like if I'm in the middle of being an absolute dick, and now in the middle of being a dick, I might realize that I'm being a dick, but I'm not gonna stop being a dick. I'm gonna realize afterwards, like I'm gonna let that dick take over. Uh, and it's but it's in that process of being like, I messed up. I really messed up, Marty, and I'm sorry. And this is what I did wrong. It's not, I'm going to apologize. It's, I want to tell you what I know I did wrong. I should not have reacted in that way. This situation it wasn't you that actually flared the situation. Unfortunately, it's playing off of things from my past that I still feel super insecure in. And it's in that bluntness and that honesty that's kind of where I started practicing. And it was, I'm trying to remember exactly. I can't remember exactly what it was that kind of enticed me to want to change. Well, I can actually. It was my kid, and the fact that I was getting very, very angry at the situation. Like you had said earlier, something about like a lot of parents can be really angry. I've been really angry. I've been really angry at the situation that we have, and it was in that anger that um I also had to learn how to grieve a life I thought I was going to have. And I think that that's part of it too, is we really have to grieve the life that we thought we were going to have. So I had to grieve, that little boy that I thought I was going to throw footballs with in the yard because I've always been a tomboy. And I had to grieve what a life that I never even knew about, of what it would be like to be a woman that had not experienced her first sexual encounter when she was 2 years old. I had to grieve what that would look like, what a healthy first sexual experience would have been like. I had to grieve that and release that. And I had to grieve growing up in a stable household where I didn't have to worry about setting my dad off and getting the ever living shit beat out of me, or watching my brother get the shit beat out of him, or my little brother get beat up. And like it was, I had to grieve all of the things that happened in my life so that I could stop existing in the woe is me. Oh my God, my life's so bad. Oh my God, it's so bad. And it took me being brutally honest and being like, you know what? It happened. We got to work through it. That's not your life. That's not who you're ever going to be. So you got to let go of it. You got to stop being mad at the fact that you're never going to be the person that you wished you were, because who you are is significantly more valuable than what you could have been. I mean, for Christ's sake, I've told people 1,000 times, like, what would I be had I not experienced all of the things that I experienced? I would literally just be like a hole in the wall. Like I'd be like a vacant space. Like there would be no contribution capable of being given because I'd be a vacant space.
All right. I'm trying not to cry. That's why I did that 10 years ago video. I
Yeah.
agree, is that so many of us, and I'm going to say specifically to traumatized folk, and I'm going to say more specifically to trans and LGBT folk, that grieving process, right? We don't like grieving, do we? Like
No.
it's something that we want to avoid at all costs, because
Yeah.
it's pain.
Mm-hmm.
It's 4 stages of pain with 1 stage of acceptance, right? Like
Right.
that's
Funny.
difficult. And I think too many people who are stuck in that victimization mindset, they're not willing to grieve that reality. I'm the same way. I spent a long time when I was angry. I'm about to post like kind of a long video, kind of going into that a little bit, but I spent a long time when I was angry, just, man, I wish it had been different. Man, I wish CPS had taken me away. Man, I wish I didn't watch 10 Years of Nightmares. Man, I wish I didn't get molested. Man, I wish I wasn't used as a function growing up for my mom. Man, I wish I had a childhood. Man, I wish I had milestones. Like, I found a reason to hate every aspect of my life. And then I realized that, and I tie the word forgiveness to it, because forgiveness is releasing the power something has over
Yeah.
us. I realized, like you said, had I not done any of that, I wouldn't have the thick skin I have now to be able to help people deal with their stuff now. And so I was able to work through I didn't get it, but that's okay, because this is what I got. This is what I got from it, and this is what I can do with it.
Yeah.
You're not taught that.
No. No, because society tells you that you gotta shove that down. Don't be telling everybody your bullshit. Like those people that are deemed as oversharers, and I was an oversharer for a long time, and I still kind of am, but it's like more empowered. Like I don't care if you think I'm oversharing. Like I'm gonna dump it out. Hold on a second, guys. Like you better pick up your teacup because it's coming out. But I I had to realize that I was never going to give anybody the power to silence me ever again. I was so this was another reality that I had to come to. And it's funny because like there was a video that was circulating last year and I was like, God damn, I should have made that video because they basically stole my words. They were in my head. Like I was really mad about it. And it was literally, if you wanted to give me a different story to tell, then you should have given me different words to write. And if you wanted me to tell people that you were a great dad or you were a great mom or I had a great experience in church, then you probably should have made it a great experience. That it's not my responsibility to protect you. I am sick and tired of protecting the people who have created damage in our society. So it was speaking out honestly. Like I had a family member just a few months ago. She was like, I don't know why you're talking about this stuff all the time. And I was like, I don't know why the hell you're bothered by it. But like, why is it triggering you? And she was like, because this stuff is from the past. And I'm like, yeah, well, unfortunately, I have chronic health issues. So it's not in the past. It's all stored in my body and I'm trying to release it. And you want to know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write an article about it. I'm going to tell the whole entire world about my 18th birthday when my dad beat the shit out of me and got arrested. And then I got kicked out of the house. And then I had to worry about all this other crap. And then started my routine. Yeah, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you that whole story, and I hope that it hurts your feelings. Not literally, like I don't hope that it hurts your feelings, but like if you're going to be offended by it, I hope it hurts your feelings because like at the end of the day, that kind of says more about you that your feelings would be hurt because I'm not protecting the abuser. Like where do my feelings get taken into account and when do I get to stop being silenced? That's where I believe that my thyroid condition started, is that self-hate of it's like I'm not worthy enough to be able to tell my story because I'm an oversharer and nobody wants to hear my story because I'm just too big of a burden and all this self-hate all the freaking time. I was, quiet down, Kelsey, shut up, don't say what you gotta say. And then when I left my ex-husband, I kind of snapped and I was like, look, everybody, here I am. I'm gonna tell you all off. So, but I think that a lot of that is there too. Is I think it's really empowering. Of I don't ever tell my story as an aha got you moment. I always tell it for that little girl that needed a voice. I don't ever tell it because I want to hurt my family or because I want to hurt my dad, more specifically my dad, because he was a lot of it. But my mom was super manipulative, and I don't ever tell it because I want to hurt my pastor's wife or my pastor or anybody, or even the man that sexually assaulted me. I think that the first thing, one of the first things that I had experienced is you learn. Well, I learned earlier, like about 10 years ago, hurt people hurt people. Like at the time, I was like, hurt people. It doesn't even make sense. Why is this a riddle? Like this is a really deep riddle. I don't get it. But it took me a while to understand, like, that's a legitimate thing. Like if somebody is hurting somebody else, it's because they're hurt. And then I went, oh my God, I bet that he experienced something bad. And I had to empathize with somebody that I would have never empathized with before because it allowed me through empathy to be able to forgive him. Yeah. Like you took advantage of a 2-year-old. Like how broken do you have to be to literally take advantage of a 2-year-old? And that's the same thing with the church too, though. Like how scared do you have to be to literally abandon a person simply because they started to question things? How afraid do you have to be to move out of your parameters that you can't even remotely associate with somebody who thinks differently?
Right. This is such a lovely conversation,
Yeah, I
Kels.
know.
It's
It
so
is
good.
love.
Some people ask some questions. Let me scroll up.
Okay.
Um, there was one I've come across. Want to be angry and stay there. It is a victim mindset. So how? Okay, so wanting to stay in anger.
Who's
B underscore underscore under. I'm assuming three underscores because
there?
there's a lot. Key
Yeah.
underscore underscore underscore.
Oh,
Um,
sorry. All the comments just came up because I kind of had them moved over. Okay. So anger, being able to move through it. So what I would say is, okay, so this is it. Don't concentrate on the movement of anger. Don't concentrate on trying to get it move. Concentrate on giving it space to be highlighted. Like, I'm feeling angry because. So, whatever the situation might be that's triggering you, whether it be family, work, situational, whatever, I'm angry because of this. And then start to do that regularly. So every time you get angry, acknowledge it and define it. Don't just be like, I'm angry. Be like, I'm angry because. That's super important, because it's in that angry because that the anger is going to eventually move over, and you're going to be able to say, well, I'm actually this feeling because, I'm actually, this hurt my feelings because, and you're going to be able to more define that emotion. Instead of just having a default, you're going to be able to move on to the more in-depth emotions that your default is using to protect you from having to feel those.
okay, so I'm gonna ask a follow up to that because it's
Okay.
been eating at me since you told it to me 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Okay, you said that you said that you think that I am so afraid of my anger that I'm not giving it the space.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely terrified of who you were, that you literally, actually, I don't think that you're giving it space. I think you're giving it too much space. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you're so fearful because your anger had so much space that you're like, oh well, I better give it all this space because like if I don't, then like it might take over me again. I think you're giving it too much space and too much credit. So you need to focus on the, why do you have to be angry? Why is it that that's what your option is for feeling, instead of narrowing it down to what you're actually feeling? What is your anger there trying to cover up and shut up again?
I
That
mean,
makes
it does make sense. I mean, I have an answer. It's I'm afraid of losing control.
so what so search that. What situation in your life is making you feel like you're losing control, and then search that. What are you actually feeling? Like what is it? Is it abandonment? Is it the fear of being taken advantage of? Is it like what is the actual scenario that is triggering the fear of losing control, which is bringing out that default emotion of anger to be able to gain control?
Being stuck in a corner in a closet again.
Okay.
I spent my whole life not being able to, and I for me, I think I lived in anger for a long time, right? And in that anger, I hurt a lot of people. What I'm afraid of is not just losing control. It's almost like I'm going to be taking a lot of anger out on the wrong person, opening the floodgates, if you will. Like, this situation deserves this anger because there's an injustice. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this situation 50 other situations worth of anger, and then now that person is now has their own injustice that I am pushing on them.
So what so basically what you're doing is you're not allowing yourself to even experience that anger then, because you're thinking that you're going to do that, you're going to dump, or you are.
I experience it and I try to convert it to something else, and that's what led to the conversation. Was I was like, I try to convert it to something else, and you're like, nah, you're not validating it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that validation comes from, okay, so you're being stuck in a corner or shoved in a closet. Like, was that a literal thing
Yeah,
or a figurative thing?
10 years I had to sit in a closet. well,
Okay.
bad things happened. Yeah. No, it's a
So,
very literal thing.
okay, sorry. I just want to clarify that this is a literal scenario. So,
Yeah.
this is what I want you to do. Is I want you to sit in that moment of you being shoved in that closet, whatever one is the most profound that sticks out in your mind. I want you to sit in it. And I know that that's scary. I get it. I totally get it. But I want you to sit in it and I want you to play it through how you remember it happening. And then I want you to play it through how you wished it would have happened. Don't do this one time. Don't do this 10 times. Do this until you finally have movement, because that little boy has something that he needs to tell you. What actually happened in that closet? What actually happened to that little boy in that closet? What was the fear really? What was the abandonment really? What was the violence really? What did it do to that boy? And actually speak to that little boy, because this is called inner child work, and it's the fact that we think, well our childhood is gone, but it's not, because all of our mannerisms and all of our behaviors are literally based in a scenario that happened at some point previously in our lives. And it's important that you sit with him and you let him tell you. You ask him what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay? I'm here to protect you. I've got you. You're okay. You know, and showing him in your way now that you're safe. You're not in a corner. You're not in a closet. You're not hearing your mom being abused. You're not experiencing abuse. You're okay. And making him finally feel safe and validated and actually listening to him.
Mm-hmm. Solid. That's what I try to do. Thank you for validating.
So you've done inner child work then?
That was part of my transition story. I just was misunderstanding what I was going through at that time.
Okay.
Um, what happened was basically I had a PTSD event to the closet due to a lot of circumstances that all happened at once.
Yeah.
And I think I told you this, but anyways.
Yeah.
And I found this inner child that was sitting in that closet. Now, when I found that person, I misunderstood at that time what I was supposed to be doing with that. And
Okay.
and now I don't regret misunderstanding it. Like I said, it was necessary for me to go through the decisions I made from a transition perspective to understand more. But that's
I
also
want
where I'm at. Yes.
to interject for 1 second. The importance of the potential, the transition and finding that was actually because you needed to get more in touch with your emotions. And that's what was happening is that
Yep.
you were given so much space and so much healing that you literally were stepping into that expression of divine feminine. So
Yep.
nothing was wrong. You did nothing wrong in that. And you know that, but I'm
Yep.
just saying there's a literal explanation.
And as I've done a lot of work with trans people and support groups and stuff, I can say that there's a lot of similarities with that thought process of I'm solving this problem, but I'm solving it with a misunderstanding of the why behind it, right? And so then you
Yeah.
get really really believed into it, and you do a bunch of things, and you act a bunch of ways, and that's that side of the community's thing to deal with, and which is why I'm glad I went through it, because I can articulate it in a way that gets them at least attempting to think about it. Versus therapists don't do that. Like if you go to a therapist
No,
about this, that's not the route they're going to go,
no.
and it's one of the big frustrations I have with them, and why I want mental health reform is the fact that
Yeah.
like it's not transphobic to get people to understand the why at a deep level. It's
I
hard
now
work, but it's not a transphobic thing.
My big hang up with therapy is oftentimes I do not think that therapy is trauma informed. This is going to
Yep.
make me a horrible person. And again, I might potentially hurt some feelings, but I'm okay with it. There are a lot of people that, oh God, this is going to really sound terrible, but I'm going to say it anyway. There are a lot of people that are are experiencing minor traumas, and all of therapy is based off of minor traumas. It's not as in depth for people that have experienced significant DNA altering, life altering traumas. At least in my experience, I've literally never had a therapist that has ever been like, hey, maybe we should work through this. They've always been like, so how's that make you feel? Like, yeah, so bad.
Yeah, no, you have to really get to a specialist to get to that level of unraveling. And most people take the solution at the first therapist rather than getting a second opinion or keep going further.
Yeah.
I think it's a huge disservice
Oh yeah.
across the board because you have a bunch of people doing things that is going to make it so much worse.
Yeah.
Because when you're solving a problem the wrong way, you now have two problems to solve for later,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Exactly. I wish that there were, well, there are like a hypnotherapist. Like, people really need to stop discounting people outside of psychology too. Also, like, a hypnotherapist can help you with your inner child work like a frigging dream.
Mm-hmm.
Um, energy healers can help. And I don't want to go off on that tangent. Just be careful of your energy healer that you pick. Uh, energy healers can help you to navigate those things. Your herbalist can help you navigate those things while supporting your body. And there's a lot of different avenues that we can do that are even outside of conventional mental health that will help a lot more in a lot of places.
Right. So circling back to how we got here, Kels, this was a journey tonight. So folk in the chat, and we have all the pieces. And I think we've all come to the understanding that an individual has to go through their hard journey to understand how to navigate the emotions in a way that gets to a healthier mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
And leading by example and telling people your story and really spreading what you've learned from your story tends to inspire people to start that process, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the solution. Is just more people need to be willing to tell their stories in a vulnerable way. And vulnerability is scary, I get it. But Brene Brown's my girl, so I'm all about vulnerability. It's what I think the sides need to, like I said before, this is a relationship that needs to be dealt with, right? And something that I'm trying to, really wrap my head around as of the past couple weeks is like, I think there is a reality to, we're in this place right now as we're all self-advocating and dealing with generational trauma, this idea that we have to deal with the sins of our fathers is part of what this conversation is. And I think it's where the charge is. And it's what's stopping both sides from acknowledging things, right? So I get it. You are handling things better than your parents did, but the things that your parents did created all of these people that you're fighting with over here. Mending relationships is acknowledging all of the pillars of this.
Oh yeah.
Together, right? And that's the part that we need to start building places of vulnerability to have that conversation so we can become less polarized in these extremes and come to a place of healing together. Because as you and I both say, we have more in common than we don't across the board. I can't tell you how many, like, I'll limit it to the realm of the woke folk. I mean, they have extreme religious ideologies. It's just all of the anti-religions, I guess, is the nicest way to put it, right? Not that it's wrong or anything like that. It's just I was raised this way, so I'm going to go to this polar opposite because, everything about my life is about rejection and revenge. That's what it's big. It's big.
It is big. It is big. And the unfortunate reality is you as an individual can't make movement. Like you said earlier, you can't make them, do what you would do. Like not everybody can be Becca.
Hell nah.
It would be lovely if the world was all season Beccas, but then there would just be a whole bunch of emotionally intelligent people being Becca and really annoying and loud and obnoxious people like Kelsey in the world. So that wouldn't be diverse at all.
No diversity. No.
Diverse at all. But I just lead by example, and share your story, but do it from the perspective of love, not because you want to get back at the other person, but because I love me enough to speak up for myself. I love me enough to say this happened to me by so and so's hand. You don't even have to call them by name, but I mean, if that person comes across your information, they're going to know exactly who they are. Because, we don't want any defamation or anything. So you gotta be careful. But that would be my end is that.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny that, like all the people who've done, I haven't met a person who hasn't done the work that hasn't landed at the conclusion that I need to help others through their journey. Like, I haven't met one. Not one.
No,
There's
no.
not a single person who's healed and done the work who's like, nah, I just sit in my corner and just like let the world burn. No, it may be only impacting one person in a week or whatever, but it just doesn't exist. That person doesn't exist because it's you have found that place of love and you've done it for yourself, and all you want to do is look at the, you see all these people and you go, me 10 years ago. Let me try to save you. Let me try to give you a shortcut. Let me try to shoots and ladders you to the end of this journey. But,
Yeah,
there's components of that where it's just not going to be feasible. But all you can do is try.
yeah. I can tell you what you could do to save yourself, but until you're ready to actually hear it, you're not going to hear me anyway, which is why it's best to just lead by example.
Yep, exactly.
I'm going to walk in my mess. You're going to see it all. You're going to see it all. I'm going to be hissing at the friggin' screen like a psychopath. Oh,
Well, I don't know. I think that's the part of social media that I struggle with. Is just a lot of people use this sense of external, like, I consider it false validation from social media to process this shit,
oh yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
and all it does is fuel the toxic part of the equation instead of the healthy part of the equation. But they think it's healthy because they're getting the dopamine
Yeah.
release and all these other things, right? Like, I can't tell you how many meltdowns I run into on TikTok, and I'm just kind of like, I know that you're trying to do something in here, and you're trying to give people out there that something, and you're trying to, I don't know. I think there might be a different way to do it.
There's no such thing as good external validation as there internal validation, and that's why it's important that we do that inner work and we meet ourselves and we're honest with ourselves and we're vulnerable with ourselves, because we're never going to be capable of leading by example or being vulnerable with others if we aren't even capable of being vulnerable with ourselves and meeting us where we are, that we keep denying ourselves. Go back to those experiences. And so I want to say this, that when I started my journey with uh, healing from my SA, I think I told you this. Did I tell you this? The process of the I think I vaguely told you. But anyway, I went through, it was a year and a half of me doing what I told you to do. Where I played it through how I remembered it happening, and then I played it through how I would have wanted it to happen. But the thing is like in the beginning, like the goal is to try to remember as many details as you possibly can. So in the beginning, I remember like me as a third person, like walking through that door and to the bathroom and like seeing the tile, and I remember the color, and I remember the color of the sink, and like just just basic details. And by a year and a half, I remembered my mom's lipstick on the back of the sink, my mom's lipstick tissue from dabbing her lips because she went out on a date with my dad. I remember the nightgown I was wearing and the princess that was on my nightgown. And I remember the clothes that the guys were wearing. So much detail that when I finally got up the nerve to ask somebody their names, because I did not know their names, when I saw their pictures, they were exactly who I remembered. Mm-hmm. Literally, I remember I was like, holy shit, this is real. Mm-hmm. And it took all of that detail. And then when I finally, it was the last time I did it, and I was driving. I feel like almost all of my weird experiences happened while I was driving, or in the most inconvenient times where God was like, hey, we're going to deal with this now. So I was driving on 75 doing like 500 miles an hour. And, I did it. I felt like I needed to do it. I played it through how it happened, and I played it through how I would have wanted it to happen. And before that second time, it was like in the middle of it, I was in that void, black void. I'm in my mind's eye. I could see it, and I'm standing before my naked 2-year-old body, laying on the floor, curled up on the floor, and she didn't move. She didn't say anything. She just cried. Curled up in a ball, and I could hear her speaking though, and she said, "This is where all of my abandonment started."
Yeah.
Where were they? I am why this will never happen to your child. I am why you're so protective of your child. This is where it all started. And like, I was like, oh my God, I see you. I see you for the first time in my life. I see you. And it all made sense. And I went, holy crap, I got some serious abandonment issues. like, oh my God. And then I started to work through that. And that's what I was kind of trying to say to you earlier, is that when you start that process, like, don't give up at like 10 times, like, be persistent, be insistent of, I want to know what you have to tell me. What did you really feel in this moment? And be super insistent and persistent, because he has so much more to tell you because otherwise these other things would not be happening. I no longer, when I start to feel abandoned, I no longer struggle and feel self-loathing, like I'm a horrible person and everybody hates me because I'm weird, and like all these reasons and justification of why people don't like me. I'm just like, oh, well, you're leaving me? Okay. You just weren't for me. It is what it is. I'll see you later. Bye. And it stopped being something that controlled my life, of where I was trying to be something for everybody so everybody would stop leaving me. I tried to be worthy enough for everybody so everybody would stop leaving me. And that is exactly what that inner child work did. And it was super freeing. So it plays on those emotions, though, those searching of your emotions and figuring out what's actually going on behind the scenes. And it all started because I acknowledged my anger. And I went, hey, Anger, what are you doing? What are you actually feeling there, dude?
This is a wild conversation. I love it. It's always wild. A lot of people are appreciative too. Well, thank you for having it.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at you, stuck to all your bullet points and everything.
Well, I didn't actually. I had a lot more.
You had a lot more. Of course you did.
I was like literally, I'm in the middle of this, and I'm like, dang, Kelsey, shut up. This is 25 minutes in. Shut up.
I legit thought you were like following it along the whole time, because like with you, it's always hard to tell, because you deviate real quick, you zigzag, and I'm like, she went to her next bullet point, but you could just taken credit for it. It's okay. I would have believed you. Look how tact you are about it. See, look at that.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I totally know. Like, I am the full embodiment of ADHD. Like, full embodiment. Like, if you want an example of ADHD, it is me. You experienced me live in person. Yeah,
that was what we were talking for. That was like 6 hours, right? I think we covered every aspect of existence in 6 hours.
We talked
every aspect.
And the only reason why it stopped is because I literally thought it was 3 o'clock and it was 5 o'clock.
Right.
That's the only reason.
Oh man. All right, dear. Well,
Well, it was very
again, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm going to throw this on YouTube because I think a lot of people will benefit from being
okay.
able to see it and share it. So,
Well, you'll have to share that with me so I could maybe share it with somebody else.
no, no, I'm not going to share you the link. I'm just
Oh,
not gonna. Yeah,
okay.
no. All right,
Will you
Kels. I
download? No, it was.
huh?
It's 6 hours long.
What? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Do you
Okay.
know how to download your lives? You can download your lives.
45 minutes that you could download.
Oh, I download the whole thing.
I've been lied to.
Well, I mean, I also have a business account, and maybe that has to do with it. I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
But like, don't do a business account because with business accounts, you can't get any of the cool music. Like,
No, no, no. I tried a business account and I was like, I'm gonna go back. I'll see you later, business account. Bye. I want to do all my cool sounds.
I know every time there's a trend, I have to be like, well, fuck me. I guess I'm not doing that one.
Well, I started a business page and then like his, I have the attention span of, well, what I always explain myself as is having the patience of a wet fart, which is super vulgar, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So like as soon as I was like, look, I have all these people over here that want to hear me, and I really don't feel like building that up over here again. So goodbye business account because you kind of suck.
That's kind of my thought process, except it's more like, I do get promoted a little bit more, not much.
That's why you got all these people. I'm over here going, why in the hell do I only have 3,500? I'm like, I make really weird videos. I get decent views. Like, I make some really weird videos and I'm only getting 300 views, 300 likes, whatever the hell. I don't know, but whatever. I don't care. I had a conversation with someone else where they said something about me growing or something. I don't remember what it was, and I was like, actually, I don't really want to grow. I had a video. I did that I don't want to be anything other than song, and like I did this whole friggin' production, and it got to like the most views I ever had. It was like 7,500 views, and all of a sudden I went into like a full blown meltdown. I was like, no, I'm gonna be famous. I don't want to be famous. Could you imagine this on a billboard? Nobody wants to see this. Like, could you imagine? Nobody wants to experience this daily. Goddamn. So I removed the video. So meltdown.
I I mean, as I grow, I tend to get like little anxiety attacks when like a video. Okay, so like I don't know if I told you, but like my most frustrating video is like one of my bigger ones. It was the stupid dude with the recycling can plastic.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Well, everyone else has, but like I thought that was just a really funny sarcastic joke, so I do edit it, and then it like lit on fire. And it's like every time I get a notification that someone commented on it because it was a super triggering video. I thought it was fucking hilarious. I like cringe. I'm like, God, I wish I could just delete that, but it has like 800,000 views or some stupid number, and it's like super triggering for people. And I get a
Wait.
lot of people follow me because of it.
Oh, okay. So I was just going to ask you if it was the alien one. How many views
No,
do you
that one's at like 9, almost at 9, I think.
have? Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
would have surely already vomited. It would have been gone. It would have been gone. I'm not one. So one of my things that I've not healed is the desire for the spotlight, which is why I have this fabulous personality. But as soon as as soon as the as soon as the spotlight starts to hit me, I'm like, no, it burns, and I'm like, I gotta go back into my little cave, my hole. I'm a hobbit, or a hermit. I'm a hobbit hermit.
So you and I are gonna go do karaoke, is what I'm hearing.
Oh, I could karaoke the shit out of like, yeah, and I don't even drink. Like I'm just super ambitious, and I know I can sing oh, I could sing good. So as long as it's some old hymnals, because unfortunately I was super isolated. So like there's a lot of songs that I don't know. Like, so bring me some Jesus music, and like I could sing a whole entire bar into a holy matrimony. Like they will be meeting God in that moment.
I was thinking like Salt and Pepper, None of Your Business.
I have no idea.
So
It's so bad.
you can add a little holiness to it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that song applies.
Don't worry. I'll do it. I'll do it. I used to so when when I was in church, like I said, I was the lead singer. I was the lead singer in literally every church that I've been in. And the one thing that you were expected was to be able to literally create movement of emotion. So like I got it. Like you want those powerful roles, you want that big voice, you want that like woo, Jesus here. Yeah, I got it. I got it big. I got it coming.
Okay. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get together again. We're gonna sing Salt and Pepper's None of Your Business.
Okay, you're gonna have
And it's going to be on my channel, so it's going to get like a stupid amount of views. And then I'm going to tie it to your channel, so you get a stupid amount of views.
oh no.
So we both experience extreme anxiety, and that is healing.
Oh God, no.
It's exposure therapy.
No.
Hard no, hard pass.
No. Sorry. I'm okay. I'm really comfortable at my 3,400 people. I'm I'm really comfortable at my I think my most views is 12,500 right now. I'm comfortable there.
Comfortable, and then just slightly into the double digits. Yeah, that's fair.
I am. I've only been on here like a year, but
Yeah.
I that my views have gone up the more the well. So last year when I started, we actually talked about this, how both of our content seemed to really evolve at the same time, which is funny because it's like we're in sync almost
Yeah.
entirely in life. And so last year, like, when I presented myself, I was like, well, if I'm going to be a spiritual, like an example of spirituality, I need to be calm, cool, and collected and present myself all the time. Like I got my shit together. And then I kind of had like a midwinter mental breakdown because my son was ripping my hair out of my head, and I shaved my head bald. And I was like, well, we're gonna start over again. Let's just let the real Kelsey out, because now you look like a fucking moron. So let's just do it. You're bald. May as well.
Hey, you had a Britney moment. It's okay.
I had a serious Britney moment. Like I was like, well, okay, so I have to actually tell the whole story. So my son pulled my hair, and he kept ripping chunks out of my hair. It was really bad. For whatever reason, he stems on my hair. And so I went and I got my hair cut, and it was the worst decision I ever made, because I'll have to send you the picture if I could find it. I literally walked out of there looking like an atom bomb cloud. Like I had stepped back into the 90s, and I was my 96-year-old great-grandmother who had just gotten a haircut and a perm. And I literally, it was like I don't even know how to explain it. I looked like an atom bomb cloud. That's the only thing I could explain. And so it was the most expensive haircut I have ever done, because even though that haircut was $20, it was $75 to fix it. And it was such a bad cut. It was really long on one side. Like the one side was like 4 inches, and this side was like 1.5. It was just really bad. So it was like at the end, I think it was like $95 for me to get my hair cut really short, and all I wanted was a pixie. Like I thought a pixie was simple. Like I wanted a shag, actually, which is why I like my hair the length it is now. That's what I wanted, was a shag. I was like, let's just take it back to like the early 2000s. Like give me a boy cut. I don't care. Yeah, they fucked that up real bad. So then afterward, like even still, like I looked like a man. Like I felt like I looked like a man. I was like, well, if I'm gonna look like a man, I'm just gonna shave the whole thing. So I took razors to my head like 2 weeks later, and I was like, well, it's done. We're gonna start from scratch, Kelsey. There's no going back now. There's no going back. It's a good thing that you have this incredible personality. It's really gonna save you. Yeah.
I just got really uncomfortable one day. It was like, I got to cut it all off so I can like feel better.
See, I think that we probably both had like kind of our Britney moment at the same time too. When did you cut your hair again?
I feel like it was February.
Okay, so I shaved my head in January.
Yeah.
See, look at it. It's like we were destined. It's like
We're like we're spiritually synced up. No, that's cool.
we're both having those moments. Same exact. I gotta
We're
be
there.
connected, and then my as soon as I did that, my entire content changed, and that's actually when like my count started because I was stuck at like 1,000 for forever, and then it started to the more erratic I was in my content because I was like, hey, I got to show up as who I am. Like, if you're going to get me in person, like, this is who I am. Like, I'm going to be giving you messages and I'm not going to be sitting there like, oh, well, this is what I feel going on with you. I'm going to be like, look, I mean, you've been there.
I was there.
Well, just
No, I have people all the time who are like, oh, like my I don't have many of my original followers left. My algorithm shifted. But like occasionally they'll be like, I miss the old soft you. I'm like, I don't. She was too quiet. He was too quiet.
yeah,
They was too quiet.
yeah, yeah. And it was. It's. I don't want to be that quiet humble person. I think I've told you about there was a conversation I had with somebody where somebody had said something about, maybe you could, be a little calmer. And I was like, look, bitch, like I understand it's uncomfortable to be in the same room with me, but I ain't going back. like take it or leave it. Like I don't really care how comfortable you are anymore. Cause you want to know what? I'm super comfortable, and I'm not changing. Oh, I'm gonna exist in that crazy.
That's how I am in my corporate environment. I'm just like, because they're like, I mean, I think that's a little risky, like to talk to executives that way. I'm like, sure is. Sure.
Goodness. I love it. You got to empower yourself.
That's right.
Nobody else is going to empower you like you can empower you.
Yeah.
So,
What's the worst thing that can happen? Get
yeah,
fired.
yep,
Get fired.
really together. What's that? Azula Mama? Azula Mama. And Delta 5, mind your own business. What? Are we talking about Mary on here? Because that's what Delta 5 think anyway. Oh no, that's Delta 8. Never mind. My mind is in a completely different realm.
What in the world? All right, dear. All right, dear. We'll cut it off here. Um, Thank you again, everyone. Really appreciated it.
Well, I will awkwardly probably text you tomorrow.
Will do.
Okay.
Rest well. Good night.
I don't know how to get out of here.